Hey guys, Adam Bartomeo with Bartomeo Realty here today. And today we're going to be going over the as-is residential contract for purchase and sale of a home. Now this will be a residential contract, so it'll be for any single family home, a duplex, a tri, or a quad. But let me get into a couple of different things real quick. So just in case you guys don't know much about me, my name is, again, it's Adam. And I am the broker for Bartomeo Realty. A few years ago, I was with Century 21. I decided to leave them after being their #1 agent for residential sales. And I started my own brokerage. The reason I started my own brokerage was so that I could do things a little bit differently. For most buyers and sellers, I give free stuff away. No extra charge, no extra cost for you guys. But I give free home warranties, free home inspections, lawn maintenance, pool maintenance, things of that nature, just because it's the right thing to do, and it will help potentially with the sale of a house or with you when you purchase the house and you're trying to get your feet established with the new home. So I decided to leave Century 21 and start out on my own. I've been doing very, very well, but I noticed that there's a lack of education in our business. So I'm going to make these videos. I'm going to try to keep them to 2 to 5 minutes to educate you guys out there, because a lot of agents aren't as knowledgeable as we'd like them to be. A lot of them are new. I've been doing this for 15 years, buying and selling my own properties, rentals, flips, things of that nature. So I learned all that stuff on my own, and then also as an agent, and now obviously a broker. So today we're going to get into the as-is purchase contract, which is, as-is residential contract, which is also known as a purchase contract or sales contract or the FLAR bar. Those are some of the terms that people will use. They're all the same exact thing. But quick story on about 2 years ago, it was a Saturday. I was with my daughter. I go into the office to just pick something up real quick. I was in a tank top, shorts. I was just running in real quick. And I see an agent at the desk, community area, and his head is down. We're going to call him Jeff, by the way, so we protect him. He's actually become a pretty fairly good agent at this point. But anyway, he's got his head down like this, and I'm like, man, Jeff, what's going on? There's an as-is contract sitting right in front of him on the desk, and he's man, I was just out showing properties, and they want to put in an offer. All right, well, that's great. You got somebody that's going to buy a house, and that's fantastic. And he still doesn't say anything. His head is down. All right, so you've never filled out a contract before, you've never read the contract before, and you're pretty nervous about getting these folks into something that they shouldn't get into. Is that right? Slowly nods his head, yes. I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to try and help you out here, and I'm going to go over the contract with you. Now, I spent 2 hours with him, with my daughter being extremely patient, my family waiting for me to get home. Because I didn't want him to feel that way. I wanted him to be educated, but also those buyers, I wanted them to know what they were getting into at that point. So I did the best I could. I showed him how to fill out the contract, but there's 12 pages. 12 pages of stuff. I couldn't translate that to him in just in 2 hours. Just couldn't happen. But that's the reason I'm making these types of videos. So it's a lot of information, so I'm going to break it down again to 2 to 5 minute videos. We're already at almost 4 minutes, so just be patient. We're going to get through this first little overview part pretty quickly. So the as-is contract, you're going to see it whether you're a buyer or you're a seller. Doesn't really make a difference, because if you're a buyer, you're putting this contract in, and the seller's going to receive it, and they're both going to have to utilize it. Normally that seller is also going to put another contract on a house using the same exact contract, just filled out a little bit differently. So they need to know about it as well. So the overview, it's 12 pages long. I'm not kidding. It is like full packed of just lots of good information in here that is very difficult to understand. Call it legalese, because there's a lot of legalities to selling houses, as well as lots or any kind of real estate. But 12 pages of information, that is why most agents don't know about it. Don't know how to explain it, because there's so much information in there. I would go out on a limb and say most agents in Florida have not even read the contract fully through. I would go out on a further limb and say that there's even less that can actually explain the contract to you properly. That's kind of crazy. I've read this document word by word, verbatim, I don't even know, 20 times, 30 times, and every time I go in there, I'm like, oh man, I just learned something new, or I interpret it a little bit differently this time. And if I don't know something, I reach out to either attorneys or title companies or lenders or whoever I have to at that point to learn a little bit more. But we're going to get you a good overview here. So pages 1 through 5, right? So that's page 1 through number 5 is really going to be about the terms and conditions. So what are you offering on that house, or as a seller, what are they offering to you? It's going to cover things like price, escrow, the closing date, how much you're going to finance, if you're going to finance, or it's going to be a cash offer, and any other kinds of terms and conditions that are in there. What's staying behind, what's leaving. So is the furniture staying? Are the blinds staying? The rule of thumb is anything that's nailed down, screwed down, or glued down is staying. But doesn't have to, right? So that's where the terms and conditions come through. It'll also cover the inspection period, as well as a host of other things as far as the offer goes. All right, well, that's basically 1 through 5. That's a lot of pages, right? Well, then, what's the rest? The rest, 6 through 10, roughly, it's going to be more about what-if scenarios. So, all right, what do I mean by what-if scenarios? So what if this happens? What do we do? Well, if there's a tornado and we're supposed to close tomorrow, what happens? The title company's gone. Or there's a hurricane coming, or there's a power outage and we can't do anything with the computers, or whatever might happen, a snowstorm. What if that happens? What do we do? What happens if the buyer defaults? What happens if the seller defaults? That's the next 6 through 10 pages. Roughly, that's what that covers, all right? As well as a lot of the title work and escrow and what they have to do on that end. And then some responsibilities for the broker. But most of it's going to be those what-if scenarios. What happens? Or what if this transaction is to a foreign buyer or a foreign seller is there? How do you handle that situation? So what if, okay? Pages 11 and 12 are really going to be more about addendums. So you have the contract that's 12 pages. That doesn't mean that's the only part of it, because there's other things that can follow the contract as well, which we call addendums. This is going to be added on to the contract, or riders. And things of that would be if you're in a homeowners association, then there's a homeowner association addendum, and there would be a box to check there. The reason you have that is because the HOA has certain rules and regulations, and also usually an application process. So you add an addendum on there saying, hey, just in case there is an HOA, which there is on this particular case, that we can understand it and that we know about it, and we're providing that information to the buyer as well as the seller. All right. There's other addendums in there like drywall, defective drywall contingencies, and addendums, VA loans, FHA loans, appraisal contingencies, all this kind of stuff that you can add on there. That's page 11, really. Page 12 is really just for, page 11 also, you can add like some kind of weird stuff in there. You can actually handwrite some stuff in there if you wanted to on very, very special transactions like maybe a lease back, or if you decide that you're going to give an extra $500 for some reason, or whatever the weird circumstance might be. You can pencil those in case there's not an addendum, but you can also write an addendum there as well. Page 12 is really for signatures, and that's where that would come in. So initials and signatures, every single page gets initialed to make sure that you understand and you initialed on it. This is a legal document. You can be held in a court of law to perform to this document, okay? So initials on every page, and then on the last page, everybody signs. Buyers and sellers, whoever's going to be on title or whoever is on title. The contract is really written to protect the buyer, right? I want you to understand that there are protections for the seller as well, but it's really protecting a lot of the buyer. And as we dig into it, you're going to understand a little bit more. But it's really written so that the buyer can be protected the entire way through. The seller has owned that house for a long time. They know they like that house. They know what's wrong with the house. They know the work that they've done to the house. The buyer comes in, spends 20, 30 minutes looking at the house, and then puts an offer in. They don't know what's going on with that property. They don't even know if they can get the money to buy the property at this point. So it's to protect the buyer, to make sure they have a lot of options to be able to withdraw from the offer, but sometimes there's some penalties, and we'll get into that another time. But there are protections also built in for the seller. All right. So that's a little bit about the overview of the as-is contract. I'm going to follow up with some videos here pretty quickly about breaking down almost every single page, and then even within those pages, sometimes I'm going to do an entire video on segments of those pages. So I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to me, Adam Bartomeo, at bartomeo.com, or you can look me up on YouTube. There's going to be a ton of videos out there that you can get more information on. So YouTube, and then just type in Bartomeo. You can call me 239-220-0735. Look me up on Facebook, Bartomeo Realty. You just type in my last name, Bartomeo, on the internet. It'll come up, and you'll have a host of ways to get in touch with me. I appreciate you watching the video and spending the time with me, and I look forward to meeting you guys. Have a great day.